I found out about the affair on a Tuesday morning, the kind of morning that should have been forgettable. I was standing in our kitchen, barefoot on cold tile, rereading a text message that wasn't meant for me. Her phone had buzzed while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I just saw my name light up the screen and assumed it was work. Instead, it was a message from someone saved as L. I missed last night. I hate pretending around him. For a long time, I just stared at it. 15 years of marriage, boiled down to one sentence. I didn't confront her right away. I don't know why. Maybe part of me hoped I was misunderstanding. Maybe I wanted to preserve the version of my life that still made sense. When she came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, humming, I asked her who L was. She froze. Not confused. Not defensive. Frozen. Who? She asked too quickly. I told her what I saw. Her face changed in a way I had never seen before. Not guilt. Calculation. It's nothing, she said. A coworker. He's going through a divorce. I was being supportive. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. I nodded and went to work like a coward. But that night, when she fell asleep, I checked the phone again. This time, I didn't stop at one message. There were months of them. Hotels. Lunch breaks. Complaints about me. Jokes about how predictable I was. Plans for a future that didn't include me. She wrote that she stayed because it was easier. That I was safe. That she loved him, but she loved the life I provided. I felt like I was reading my own obituary. I confronted her the next evening. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just asked her how long. 2 years, she said. 2 years of dinners I cooked. Vacations we took. Birthdays we celebrated. 2 years of her lying next to me every night and texting him when I fell asleep. I was going to tell you, she said. I just didn't know how. That was the first time I laughed. I told her I wanted a divorce. She didn't argue. She just looked relieved. We agreed to be civil. We had a house, joint accounts, and 15 years of shared history. I moved into the guest room while we figured things out. That's when the strange things started happening. Small things at first. Her car wouldn't start one morning. The power in her home office kept cutting out. Her laptop crashed and took months of work with it. She accused me of messing with her stuff. I swore I wasn't. And I wasn't. At least, not consciously. But every time something went wrong for her, I felt calm, like the universe had finally chosen a side. After the laptop incident, she moved some of her work files to an external drive and kept it in her purse. She started locking her phone again, like she used to when the affair was still secret. We became two strangers sharing hallways. Her lover, L, began showing up more often. Not inside the house, but nearby. I saw his car down the street when I took out the trash. I saw him once at the grocery store, pretending to examine oranges while watching me from the corner of his eye. He was younger than me. Not dramatically, but enough to sting. Confident in a way that comes from not having built anything yet. One evening, she didn't come home. No text. No call. I sat in the living room until midnight, staring at the dark television screen like it might explain things to me. When she finally walked in, her hair was messy and her lipstick was gone. I stayed with a friend, she said. I didn't ask which one. The next morning, her bank card was declined at the gas station. She came home furious, waving her phone at me. Did you freeze the account? No, I said. She didn't believe me. She called the bank, put them on speaker. They said there had been suspicious activity and the account was temporarily locked. They would investigate. That afternoon, the water heater broke, flooded the basement, soaked boxes of her old journals, clothes, things she'd kept from before we met. She stood in the doorway and watched the water spread like a stain. This is your fault, she said. You're doing this. I don't even know how, I replied, but I started to wonder. That night, I dreamed I was standing in our house while it collapsed room by room. Not violently, quietly, like it was tired of holding itself together. The next week, her company announced layoffs. She came home pale and shaking. They're cutting my department, she said. I don't know if I'll be safe. I should have felt sorry for her. Instead, I felt detached, like I was watching someone else's life unravel. Then came the phone call. She was in the shower again when her phone rang. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a call. From L. I answered it. There was a pause on the other end. Then he said her name. She can't talk right now, I said. Another pause. I know who you are, he said. Look, man, I didn't mean for this to get complicated. She told me she loved you, I said. He exhaled sharply. She told me you were basically roommates. I almost smiled. She lied to both of us, I said. But she chose you. He didn't answer. Good luck with that, I added, and hung up. When she found out I'd answered, she screamed at me like I had crossed some invisible line. Like I was the intruder. That was when I realized something. She wasn't scared of losing me. She was scared of losing control. She started staying out more after that. Sometimes she wouldn't come home at all. Other nights, she'd slip in quietly and go straight to the guest room she had claimed as her own. We barely spoke except about practical things. The lawyer appointment, the house appraisal, who would keep the dog. The dog chose me. That hurt her more than anything else. One afternoon, I came home early and found her sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of papers. Her eyes were red. They let me go, she said. Effective immediately. I nodded. I didn't trust myself to say anything else. They said my performance dropped, that I missed deadlines, that I was distracted. Her voice cracked. I wasn't distracted. I was trying to be happy. I almost told her that happiness built on lies always sends the bill later. Instead, I poured myself a glass of water and leaned against the counter. "I'll said I can stay with him if things get bad," she added, watching my reaction. "Then you have a plan," I said. She looked disappointed, like she wanted a fight and got indifference instead. 2 days later, she packed a suitcase and left. No dramatic goodbye. No apology. Just the sound of the front door closing and 15 years evaporating into the hallway. The house felt too big after that. Not empty, just quiet. Like it was holding its breath. I started finding things she'd forgotten. A sweater in the closet. A mug in the sink. A note stuck inside a book she never finished. Each one felt like a tiny aftershock. Then she came back. Not to reconcile. To get more things. She looked different. Thinner. Tired. The confidence she'd had with him was already wearing off. "He drinks a lot," she said suddenly, as if continuing a conversation we'd started days ago. "Not all the time. Just when he's stressed." I said nothing. "And he gets angry," she added. "Not violent. Just sharp." You know, I almost laughed. I had never raised my voice at her in 15 years. She filled another box with clothes. "He says I ruined his life," she said. "That if I hadn't pushed for more, he wouldn't have had to leave his ex." "Sounds familiar," I said. She stopped packing and stared at me. "Why are you being like this?" she asked. "Why aren't you fighting for me?" I finally looked at her. "Because I already did," I said. "For 15 years. You just didn't notice." She left again, slamming the door this time. That night, I got a message from an unknown number. "She never told you everything." I stared at the screen until it went dark. Another message followed. "Ask her about the accident." I didn't sleep. I kept replaying the words in my head like they were a riddle. The accident. The only accident I could think of was the one from 3 years ago, the night she came home shaking and said she'd clipped a cyclist on a back road and panicked. She swore she stopped, checked, and the man waved her off, saying he was fine. We never reported it. I believed her. I even defended her when she cried and said she could still hear the sound of the impact. In the morning, I called her. "What accident?" I asked. Silence on the line. Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "Who told you to ask that?" she finally said. "That doesn't matter," I said. "Did you lie to me?" She hung up. An hour later, she was at the house. Her eyes were wild, like an animal that had realized the cage door was open. "He's trying to turn you against me," she said. "He's bitter. He wants to hurt me." "Did you hit someone?" I asked. She sank into a chair. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. "It was dark. He came out of nowhere. I was on the phone with Elle. I swerved. He went down hard." "Did you call for help?" "I waited," she said. "I got out. He wasn't moving. I panicked. My stomach dropped. I heard a car coming and I left," she said. I thought he was dead. I couldn't breathe. "They never found me," she said. "They said it was a hit and run. I watched the news for weeks." "Why are you telling me now?" I asked. "Because Elle knows," she said. "I told him when we first got together. I thought I could trust him." I suddenly understood the message. "He's blackmailing you," I said. She nodded. "He wants money. He says if I don't help him pay off his debts, he'll go to the police." I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. "You involved me in this," I said. "You let me defend you when you thought you killed someone." "I didn't want to lose you," she said. "I didn't want to lose everything." I walked out of the room before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I got another message. "She's lying again." Then a photo came through. It was of a hospital room. A man in a bed, older than I expected, with a scar across his forehead. "He lived," the message said. "And he remembers the car." I drove to the hospital the next morning. I don't know what I expected. A confrontation. A confession. Some kind of cinematic moment where the truth landed with a sound. Instead, I found a quiet room that smelled like disinfectant and old flowers. The man in the bed looked fragile. One side of his face drooped slightly, and his left hand lay curled on the blanket like it had forgotten its purpose. "Are you family?" the nurse asked. "No," I said. "I just need to talk to him." She hesitated, then nodded. Not long. His eyes followed me as I stepped closer. "My name is Daniel," I said. I I know about the accident." He studied me carefully. "You're her husband," he said. His voice was slow but clear. "Or you were." My throat tightened. "You remember her?" "I remember the headlights," he said. "And her voice. She kept saying she was sorry. She kept saying she had to go." I sat down heavily. "They told me it was a random hit and run," he continued. "But I knew it wasn't random. I saw her face." "Why didn't you report her?" I asked. He looked toward the window. "My wife had just died," he said. "I was walking because I couldn't sleep in that house alone. When I woke up in the hospital, I didn't want another life ruined. I told myself it was an accident. I let it go. I felt sick." "She didn't let it go," I said quietly. "She built another life on top of it." He turned back to me. "Is that why you're here?" I nodded. "He's using it against her," I said. "The man she left me for." His mouth tightened. "So she chose someone who would weaponize it," he said. "That's fitting." I didn't defend her. When I left, my phone buzzed. "Did you talk to him?" The message read. It was from Elle. I didn't answer. Another message came. "She says you're trying to destroy her. I just want what she owes me." I finally typed back. "You're not protecting anyone. You're exploiting a victim." There was a long pause. Then, "Meet me tonight. I'll prove she's worse than you think." I met him in the parking lot of a closed diner off the highway. The kind of place that still smelled like grease even after the lights were out. He was already there, leaning against his car, smoking like he wanted the night to swallow him. "You look calmer than I expected," he said. "I ran out of things to lose," I replied. He laughed once, sharp and humorless. "She told me you were dangerous. She hit a man and ran," I said. "So maybe her instincts aren't great." He crushed the cigarette under his shoe. "You think I wanted this?" he asked. "She came to me broken, crying. Said she needed someone who wouldn't judge her. And you charged interest," I said. His jaw tightened. "She offered money, jewelry, access to your accounts. Said it was all marital anyway." That hit harder than I expected. "She planned this?" I asked. "She planned survival," he said. "You were just background noise." He opened his trunk and pulled out a folder. Inside were printouts, bank transfers, emails, photos of documents I recognized, our mortgage papers, my signature scanned and pasted onto forms I'd never seen. "She took out a loan in your name," he said. "Told me you knew. Said it was to help with investments." My hands started shaking. "How much?" I asked. "Enough to bury both of you," he said. I flipped through the pages. Dates matched the months she'd started staying late at work. The same months the affair began. "You're showing me this now because?" I asked. "Because she stopped paying me," he said. "And because I realized she didn't just lie to you. She lied to me about what kind of person she was." "Now you want absolution?" I asked. "I want out," he said. "I already sent copies to myself and to a lawyer friend. If she tries anything, I go public." My chest felt tight. 15 years of knowing her, and I still hadn't seen this version. "She told me you were controlling," he continued. "That you watched her accounts. That you made her feel trapped." I laughed quietly. I didn't even check her phone until it was already over. He looked at me for a long second. "You know she's going to come back to you," he said. "Not because she loves you. Because you're the only one who can fix this." I drove home with the folder on the passenger seat like a body. She was there when I arrived. Sitting on the couch, coat still on, hands clasped like she was waiting for a verdict. "Did you meet him?" she asked. "Yes," I said. Her face collapsed. "You weren't supposed to," she whispered. She started crying before I said anything else. Not the quiet kind. The desperate, gasping kind that used to mean something to me. "He's trying to ruin me," she said. "He's lying. He forged things. You know I would never steal from you." I put the folder on the coffee table and opened it. "Then explain my signature," I said. She stared at the papers like they might disappear if she didn't look too long. "I was going to tell you," she said. "After the divorce. I was going to pay it back once things settled." "With what job?" I asked. She didn't answer. "I defended you." I said. About the accident. About everything. I thought the worst thing you did was fall in love with someone else. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her coat. I was scared. I thought if you knew everything, you'd leave. I left anyway, I said. She looked up at me then. So what are you going to do? I realized she wasn't asking emotionally. She was asking strategically. I went to the hospital, I said. Her eyes widened. You didn't, she whispered. I did. I spoke to him. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. He remembers you, I said. He remembers your voice. He chose not to report you. She slid off the couch onto the floor. I didn't mean to hurt him, she said. I just wanted my life back. You never lost it, I said. You just wanted a different one. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, if this comes out, I lose everything. You already did, I said. You just haven't finished counting yet. She stood up slowly and walked to the door. Are you going to the police? She asked. I thought of the man in the hospital bed, of the years of lies, of the money, of the way she had looked relieved when I asked for a divorce. I don't know, I said. And for the first time, it was true. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 3 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She's gone. Then another. And she took something with her. I drove to her apartment before the sun came up. Elle's car was gone. Her lights were off. When I knocked, no one answered. The landlord recognized me from moving day and let me in with a look that said he already knew this was trouble. The place was half empty. Clothes missing. Jewelry gone. The drawers where she kept her documents were open and stripped bare. On the kitchen counter was my old laptop. The one I thought had died years ago. I opened it. There was a single folder on the desktop called Insurance. Inside were scanned policies I had never seen. Life insurance. 2 of them. Both taken out 6 months earlier. One in her name. One in mine. Mine listed her as the beneficiary. My hands went cold. I checked the date stamps. The same week she started staying out late. The same week she told me she was working on a promotion. Another file sat underneath. A document titled, If Something Happens. It was a letter. She wrote that she had ruined everything. That she couldn't fix what she'd done. That Elle had turned on her. That the debt was closing in. That the accident would surface eventually and she couldn't face prison. And then, if you're reading this, it means I didn't have the courage to do what I planned. I wanted it to look like an accident. I wanted you to be safe financially. I wanted to leave you something good after everything I took. I dropped the laptop. She hadn't taken something with her. She had been planning to take herself out of the equation. I called her phone, straight to voicemail. Then I called Elle. She left, he said. His voice sounded wrecked. She said she needed time. She took cash and her passport. She had insurance on me. I said. Silence. She was thinking about killing herself, I said, or making it look like I died. She talked about accidents a lot, he said quietly. About fate. I hung up and called the police. I told them about the accident, about the forgery, about the insurance, about the messages. I told them everything. They found her 2 days later in a cheap motel near the bus station. She hadn't hurt herself. She hadn't run far either. She was sitting on the bed with her suitcase open, surrounded by clothes she couldn't decide to take, like she was still pretending this was just another temporary escape. She didn't resist when they arrested her. The charges stacked up quickly. Identity fraud, financial crimes, leaving the scene of an accident, attempted insurance fraud. The affair barely made the list. I was asked to come in for a statement. Then another. Then another. Each time, I told the story from the beginning. The message on the phone, the lies, the accident, the loans, the insurance. They asked me if I had known about the policies. I said no. They asked if I thought she meant to harm me. I said I didn't know. But the truth was, I had started to believe she didn't care who got hurt as long as she could outrun the consequences. Elle tried to disappear too. His lawyer friend was real, but not very loyal. When the police searched his place, they found copies of the forged documents and messages where he coached her on how to move money without triggering alerts. They charged him as well. The man from the hospital gave a statement. He said he never wanted revenge. He just wanted the truth to stop haunting him. I visited him once more. She finally told someone, he said when I walked in. That's something. She told the wrong people for the wrong reasons. I replied. He smiled faintly. Sometimes that's all it takes. The divorce went through while she was in custody. 15 years of marriage dissolved in a courtroom that smelled like old paper and coffee. She didn't look at me when the judge read the decision. She just stared at her hands like they were evidence too. They gave me the house. They gave her time. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A week after the sentencing, I received a letter from her prison address. She wrote that she still loved me. She wrote that none of it would have happened if she hadn't been lonely. She wrote that she hoped one day I would forgive her because forgiveness was the only thing that made people free. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. That night, I dreamed of the house again. But this time, it wasn't collapsing. It was empty, stripped down to walls and light and air. I woke up feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. I sold the house 3 months later. Not because I had to, but because I couldn't stand the idea of someone else living inside the echo of our life. I donated most of the furniture, kept only what I could carry in my car and what didn't feel poisoned by memory. Before I left, I walked through every room one last time. I stopped in the guest room, the place where she had slept while planning a future without me. I found a small envelope taped behind the light switch. My name was on it, written in a careful hand. Inside was a single sheet of paper. She wrote that the accidents after our separation hadn't been accidents. The car, the power, the laptop. She had sabotaged them herself. Not to punish me, but to make me feel unstable. To make me doubt my own version of reality. She said if I believed I was capable of hurting her, I wouldn't look too closely at what she was doing. I needed you confused, she wrote, so I could stay ahead of you. I sat on the floor and read it twice. For months, I had thought the universe was choosing sides. That justice had arrived on its own. The truth was uglier and simpler. She had been trying to rewrite the story while I was still living in it. I drove to the hospital one last time before moving out of town. The man from the accident was walking with a cane now. He said he was going to move closer to his sister. I used to think forgiving her meant excusing her, he said. Now I think it just means I don't let her be the last chapter. I understood that. I never wrote her back. I never visited. I let the past stay where it belonged, in court records and locked drawers. People ask me sometimes how I didn't see it. How you can live with someone for 15 years and not know who they are. The answer is that I didn't know who she was. I just believed the version of her that needed me, instead of the one that was quietly preparing to leave me behind. Betrayal didn't break me. It introduced me to the man who survived it.